My name's Alex and my son's called Samuel. He received his bone marrow transplant when he was 10 months old. I've got 3 top tips for when you're in the hospital with your child. Number 1, always try and see the positive in the situation, because things will get better and things will change, even though sometimes it doesn't feel that way. Try and think outside the box when you're giving them food. I wish I'd known that before I went in, that was going to be quite a big deal. Try everything, anything that you think they might like and you might not like. Just try everything. And number 3 is make a little bit of time for yourself if you can, because it will do you the world of good, even though it may seem like one of the hardest things to do while you're in there.
I'm Steph, this is Steve. Our little boy Harry is now 8 years old. He had his bone marrow transplant when he was 11 months old, diagnosed at 4 months old. He's now at school and doing really well. Our 3 top tips, I guess, for any parents going through bone marrow transplant will be, firstly, just try to stay positive, support each other. It's very hard to be worried and negative with everything that's going on, but try and sort of stick together and stay positive.
Yeah, and another good tip, the second top tip would be is to seek advice and support if you need to. It's always nice to have that extra support. There's lots of supports out there that can help you both emotionally and financially. So you've got a lot of organisations to look out for.
And finally, just be your child's voice, especially with Harry. He was so young when he had his transplant, so he couldn't sort of make decisions for himself and speak up for himself. So it's very important, if you don't understand anything or you've got any questions about anything that the doctors are saying or doing, just ask, because your instinct, is there, isn't it?
That's it.
As a parent.
That's it. If you don't understand anything, we can ask the doctors and they'll explain it to you so that you feel more aware of what's going on. I'm Phil.
I'm Helen. Our son Peter was 11 when he was diagnosed with aplastic anemia. That was last September. He had his transplant in November. He's doing really, really well.
We got the record for coming out of hospital. The record was 28 days, we did it 23, I just thought I'd put that in.
Yeah. Our top tips for being in hospital is A, hide your rosé in your Lucozade bottle. B, take an eye mask, because when you're laid in hospital bed next to somebody and the nurses are in and out, you're going to need it. And C, make sure you've just got plenty to do.
My name's Jane Campbell and my daughter Sarah Campbell had a bone marrow transplant in August of 2006. It's really important to keep in contact with family and friends via the social media networks that you have available now. Another way for me to keep sane during this time was to do something that I wouldn't normally have time to do at home, and that was to do cross stitch, because I enjoy doing craft. And during my sessions whilst I was in bone marrow transplant and afterwards, I was able to then complete a cross stitch pattern, which I haven't had time to complete such a large one since then. And then the third tip is to make use of any available resource to you. Parents' events on the ward, it's a good way to get out without your child being around and to have a chat to other parents. This could even just be in the parents' kitchen, and that's really my top tips. Thank you.
Emily she was diagnosed with JMML when she was 3 years old. She's had 2 transplants now. She's now 5 and doing fantastic. My top tips, I'd recommend that you get your creative side out, because if you're in there for a very long time, it helps make things a lot easier. My second top tip is take lots of photos. It's quite emotional when you look back, but it certainly helps us a lot. And then the last one, my last top tip is try and find an app of some sort where you can create a database of all the blood results and you can share it with your friends without having to text them all the time and things like that. That's it really. But good luck.
3 things.
3 things that I'd recommend. If you're going through transplant, I recommend this, not my husband, is a bottle of wine when it's celebration time, like birthdays, Christmases, on like New Year. Second one is always have antibacterial wipes or wipe in your bag. And the third one is What's my third one? What's my third one be?
I don't know.
Think of third one. Never cry in front of your child. Always be strong, because if you're not strong, then you've got nobody else to turn to. It's really important that you're strong for your child. It really is. I'll just bring you to say something. Go on. Yeah.
My 3 things would be to stay positive and to keep going. It's important to keep going, that's what our consultant said. And also, third thing would be never give up, keep going.
Never give up ever. Never
Thank
give
you.
up hope, because no matter what anyone else says to you, you're always a rock behind your child getting better.
Hi, my name's Richard Hardiman. My son is 3, his name's Kieran. He had a bone marrow transplant a year ago when he was 2. He's doing really well, which is great news a year later. Coming out, not much GVHD, he's a normal, happy and very energetic child. 3 bits of advice that I can give from a parent's perspective on transplant and what's happened to us over the last few years is that there is no such thing as being too neurotic about cleanliness of room, of people and other things. To not be afraid to ask questions to anybody and everybody. If you don't understand, ask is something that we found tricky, but at the same time extremely helpful. The final thing for us is to really rely on heavily everything and anything that is close to you. So for us, that was faith, that was family, and also to build relationships with some of the medical staff that we came into contact with.